Hey everybody, and welcome to this video. I've done a few in the past where I've talked about like computers and a cheap gaming computer, a decent gaming computer. We've kind of done some builds in PC Building Simulator. I've had a look through kind of PC Part Picker, and me, I love kind of that sort of tech. But I thought what might be interesting today for everyone is if we have a look at peripherals. So this video I wanted to look at if you were maybe just thinking of starting up on YouTube or Twitch or any other platform you might want to use, and you maybe didn't have the money to invest in some top of the line gear, because it gets really expensive, trust me when I say that. And I thought I would give you some ideas of products which I've used or am using or have used in the past, or that I know are pretty good. There's a couple here which I haven't used, but I know from reviews that they are products people have been raving about. I want to also let you know that if you decide to purchase any of this, I have some Amazon affiliate links in the description to this video, which you can click on. This is my kit homepage, which is where you can put like different setups and things. I also have some other ones on here for my gear that I do use and stuff like that. So you can kind of have a look at that if you want to get an idea. I might make an actual video talking about it, but I'll probably do one where I actually film the actual equipment, if that makes sense, and talk about it there when I actually get set up, rather than like this. So yeah, just to let you know, I didn't make this video specifically for the Amazon links. I actually made it originally and then found out about the Amazon affiliate links, and then are now remaking the video just to kind of mention this to you. So yeah, there we go. So talking about getting into YouTube, getting into streaming. Obviously, they're two fairly different things, but pretty much the equipment you want for both is going to be very similar. The minimum you're going to want to do is be able to capture your gameplay or through a camera of something, and you're going to need a microphone as well for audio. There's other bits and bobs which I'll kind of show you, which you can add on, which might help you out for not huge amounts of money. But the thing I'll always say to people who are starting up on YouTube or Twitch is the number one thing you should think about is audio. Think about it this way. Definitely over the last few years, and I've been doing this for close to 4 years now, and even when I started, the majority of people watched YouTube and Twitch on their mobile phones. That has increased even more now, to where it's probably at least 60 to 70% of people watch this on their mobile phones. Mobile phones have obviously got much better. Their screens got a lot better, but ultimately they are still all very small form factor. It's rare that you have one which is over like 7 inches, isn't it, really? And that's like really big. So the average kind of mobile phone is what, 5-6 inches, something like that. So visually, you don't have to have the most cutting edge equipment for that. You'll see these YouTubers, you probably watched them, people like Linus Tech Tips or Marcus Brownlee, people like that, who have these like 4K, 8K cameras, and they film. That's all well and great, but the majority of people are not watching it in that, and they know this. They know it's kind of for future proofing and stuff like that. But reality is they are big tech tubers, and if they're not recording to the highest quality, then it's kind of weird that they get called out. Plus, they have the money to do it. That's a big factor. Probably starting out, you may not have the money to be able to get all the best gear, most likely. So if you have a pot of money, whatever that is, whether it's £100, whether it's 200, 300, for you to buy these kind of peripherals, I always say focus on your audio quality 100% before anything else. Also in these peripherals, we are going to go through things like keyboards, monitors, mice, that type of thing. When you're starting out, some recommendations I have for you on there. But I want to talk about audio first. You can see here in the middle of the screen, you've got the Blue Yeti Nano. I've used a Blue Yeti for years. I found them to have very, very good audio quality. I'm still using a Blue Yeti. It's just it's a Yeti Pro, so I use it through XLR. I recommend people start out with a USB mic. It's way cheaper and a lot less fiddly, if that makes sense. The difference between USB and XLR is kind of fairly simple. USB will be like a digital signal, which is coming from your microphone. You directly plug it into your computer. They're usually pretty plug and play, so you don't really have to worry. Let me close Steam down so I don't get any more of those notifications. They're usually pretty much plug and play. Things like Blue do have some software you can download, which will help you to adjust certain things on there. You can also download a lot of free software like Voice Meter, for example, which will help you to balance out and EQ a lot of stuff and change the tone slightly to exactly what you want. But you don't really have to worry about that too much. The sound quality you'll get out of a Blue mic will be very good, and it's used by a lot of people out there. It's worth noting that they've also they're now owned by Logitech. Blue. I don't think it's really changed much for them. They brought out this nano version of the Yeti, which is nice. It comes with a nice stand as well. They're very good quality microphones as well, and they'll have buttons like mute on there if you need to mute quickly. They'll have volume, they'll have gain, and they'll have a couple of different patterns on there. We'll view it actually on Amazon and I'll show you. Yeah, so they're about £100, which I know is a lot, and some people are like, whoa, that's too much for me. But as I said, I know it's nice to be able to spend money and make things look nice, and it might feel better, but trust me, the audio quality is where you want to invest your money. Yeah, so it has a couple of different sound patterns. It's got the Blue Sherpa software, which allows you to kind of fine tune things, but they're really easy to just use, be picked up by everything. They'll come in some different colors if you want to go that way. It's an option for you as well. I recommend like a Blue Yeti. Other ones you could possibly get, you got the Rode NT USB Mini, which will open up here. So that's again similar price, again very good sound quality. I guess it's a fact of like what you kind of prefer, how you like the looks, etc. But yeah, again, very, very good quality Rode. They make a lot of great stuff on there. This one as well, I think, is USB-C. I will say that I've never quite liked that about the Yetis, is they don't use USB-C, which kind of annoys me a little bit, but there you go. So yeah, so it's a nice mic too, the NT USB Mini, and you've got this Blue Snowball, which I've kind of put on there if you can't afford a Yeti. Yeah, this is about £50. Shouldn't be paying more than that. These have kind of been out of stock recently because of certain reasons, but this was the mic I started out with on my channel. So if you go back to my early videos, they were all recorded with the Snowball. I think after a year, maybe 6 months, I picked up the Yeti, but I don't think I paid £50 for it back then. I think it was about 35. The unfortunate kind of fact is right now that due to a lot of people working from home or just getting into this kind of thing, prices of certain things have gone up. So microphones have gone up, webcams have gone up, capture cards have gone up, unfortunately. But you can find these, you can find them secondhand as well. I recently had a Yeti, an old Yeti, which I sold on eBay, and I only sold it for like £30. It didn't have the stand or anything else with it. It was just the capsule Yeti, but there are some bargains to be had online if that sort of thing interests you. I don't think that the Snowball sounds as good as the Yeti. That's my opinion. It probably shouldn't. It's half the price, but I still think it sounds plenty good enough if you want to stream or do YouTube recording. Especially if you really want to get into something like ASMR, I do recommend spending a bit more money on your audio if you can. But if you're just kind of jumping in and you want to record some gameplay and do voiceover on it, or record or stream live or whatever, do let's plays, like that Snowball is fine. The other option you have, which is even cheaper, is the Fifine USB microphone, which I'll just bring up here. £37.30 on Amazon. Yeah, you're not going to get as good a quality, but actually it's still pretty darn good for the money you're paying. You can see it's an Amazon choice. This one's been reviewed all over kind of YouTube because people are like, yeah, this is great. I would, if you're desperate for a mic and you really are like, oh, I'm just going to use my headset mic or whatever, don't do that. Please don't do that. Don't use your Apple iPhone mic or whatever. Don't use a mic built into your camera or whatever. Spend a little bit of money and actually get a microphone, even if it's, if your limit on some things is really low. I do recommend splashing out on a specific microphone whenever you can, and then you can always upgrade later on. You can, however you want to start out, you can always upgrade, on there. So yeah, as I said, audio, very, very important on there. What you can also do from an audio is go XLR. So I talked about USB, and that's kind of plug and play. XLR is an analog signal, and what you need with a XLR microphone is you need an audio interface, or a mixer, something like that. But they're a lot more expensive generally. So I generally find XLR microphones will give you better quality, although depending on the type of content you're making will really depend on whether that quality will show. For example, if you're streaming, you're playing very kind of like fast-paced games, you've got the game sounds fairly high, whatever, and you're talking or whatever, it's really not going to change your life to move to XLR. If you're doing a lot more kind of voiceover stuff, if you're doing podcasts, if you're doing stuff where the spoken voice is really what people are listening to primarily, then maybe think about at some point going to XLR or starting off XLR, depending on what your budget is. The reason it is more expensive is because the audio interface adds on the cost. So you can pick up something like the Rode Mic Dynamic, which is a really good microphone, for £100. It's the same price as Yeti. But the problem is, in order to get that signal into your PC, you will need an audio interface. The one I've got here is the Focusrite Scarlett Solo. It's £90, so it's not cheap. You can only plug one microphone into it, but it's decent, and you don't want to skimp out on an audio interface, because if you spend £100 on a microphone and get a really cheap audio interface, you're losing the quality as you come over. It's like when I see people build a PC and they build this amazing PC, top of the range graphics cards, and then they've got a 1080p monitor, and it's like all that money you put in your PC is for nothing, because it's way more powerful than what that is putting out. So try to budget your audio interface with your microphone, because otherwise you're going to lose the quality there. So it's something you can do. It is a bit trickier to set up XLR. You need to kind of look into it. There'll be some software you have to use, but as I said, the quality is generally better than a USB. But again, it really depends on what you're doing. Some people will spend thousands on their audio setup, and if they haven't set it up correctly, it'll sound worse than someone who spent £100 with a Blue Yeti mic who has set it up properly. So bear that in mind as well. It's worth taking your time, investing, trying things out, using different settings, etc., finding what's best for you, making sure you balance your audio levels of your game, your alerts, your whatever, your voice, everything like that needs to be at a good balance, or else that money you spend will kind of be for nothing. Let's talk about capture cards next. So this is generally a capture card. If you're streaming on a PC and you're playing PC games, you don't need a capture card to stream. You can use software like OBS, which will do that for you. We'll come into that later, but for now, let's talk about capture cards. So capture card is useful where you want to maybe stream from a console, or you want to be able to use a second PC or a laptop as your streaming device to free up your actual PC for the actual gameplay. So what I mean by that is, take here the Elgato Game Capture HD60S. This is a capture card I used to use to capture all my PlayStation, Xbox. What you do is you plug in your HDMI cable into this little box. You plug a USB in this, and that goes to your computer, and then the HDMI out goes into whatever monitor you want to play your game on. So say you had just a laptop, you could use this to stream or game or record, sorry. You can see I did purchase it back in 2017. You can use this to record or game, record and game at the same time, which is quite useful. So what's nice about this is it has the HD60S will record in 1080p 60 frames per second at a kind of maximum level, which is quite nice. And then it has like a pass through. Let me just double check this, because I think I've actually forgotten since then, but I believe you can pass through at a higher no, sorry, so the pass through is 1080p 60. So what you have to bear in mind there is the pass through, when we talk about that, is the signal out of this box which goes to your TV will still only be 1080p 60 frames per second. Now, for a lot of people, that is absolutely fine. There's no problems there. You will probably may only be able to play in 1080p 60. You're likely to only stream in 1080p 60. As a maximum, it's very strange for anybody to stream at higher resolution than that, because people just can't really support it currently. And it's instant as well. There's no lag on it, and I can attest to that. There is no lag on it from when I've used it. So it can be great if you've just got a laptop and you want to get into streaming. You've got a PlayStation, a Switch, Xbox. You can pick this little kit up, plug this into your laptop, control everything from your laptop, the recording, the stream, everything, and then don't worry about whatever your PlayStation or Xbox is doing, and you can just game on there. Pretty simple. You can use it on the go as well. It's quite portable. It's very small, size of slightly larger than a wallet, I'd say, general size for a wallet. The problem is, as you can kind of see from these prices here, they're not cheap. So you have to kind of bear that in mind. They've gone up in price since I think I purchased them. I think if I view this order, okay, I don't want to log in online, but if I viewed the order, I'm pretty sure I didn't pay that much for it 3 years ago, which is a testament to, I guess, maybe the quality of it, that it's lasted this long, but also the fact that these things are going up in price as more people are using them. As demand increases, so does the supply hasn't really increased, and so the price goes up. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. Now, if you're wondering what all the different versions are, I'll go through them a little bit with you. So the HD60S is an external little box which you can use. If you wanted to put something in your PC, you can use the HD60 Pro. I used to use this as well before. The reason why this is slightly better than the S is because it has a slightly higher bit rate, and it has hardware encoding kind of into it, basically. So it's not going to use very much resources from your computer, whereas the HD60S will use a bit more, which is why it's generally advisable for streaming or recording from a different console, if that makes sense. You wouldn't use it on the same PC, like it would be weird. So you use the HD60 Pro, and it actually goes into your PCIe slot in your PC. Very, very simple to use. Exactly the same software as the HD60S, which again, I've used the software. It's actually pretty good. The Elgato one, it allows you to control your sound levels, record, stream, all this type of stuff, resolutions, frame rates, etc. It's all pretty simple. And yeah, it's pretty simple to use. It's a little bit more money, as you can see. Slightly better bit rate, which means the quality of the video output will be slightly better, but not crazy. You lose the portability, though, obviously. If you can't use this on a laptop. So there's that. The HD60S Plus, which comes out, I believe this one, yeah. So this has 4K 60 HDR10, zero lag pass through. So I said the HD60S will only pass through at 1080p 60 frames per second, which means that the output to a monitor from that card will only be that. Now, obviously, if you're using, say, PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox X, or even the new next gen cards, you're probably going to be viewing it on a TV or something like that, and you're going to want you're going to want a higher resolution. So while the HD60S Plus will only record at 1080p 60, it will capture HDR, but on Windows only. But honestly, don't worry about HDR. It's not worth it right now. You can then pass through and play at 4K. So even though you're streaming or capturing at 1080p 60, you can stream through at 4K 60 if you can run that high. So to some people, that's going to be worth the extra money. It is expensive. Like it's worth noting. And when you consider that this is £189, the 4K 60 Pro, which I currently own, as you can see, I recently picked it up. I think it was actually a little bit cheaper than that, funnily enough, but not by much. This will record at up to 4K 60 with HDR and also pass through. It does go into your computer again, like the HD60 Pro. So you have to use it on a desktop, but this is really good. A card, I will turn around and say the recording. I've done some testing, and I usually use Shadow Play on my PC to record. It's pretty low resource use, and the recordings are pretty good. If you've watched my videos, it records up to 4K, but I generally do 2K or 1440p recording at 60 frames per second. I found the recording quality to be slightly better on this, which is cool. And because I use it in a separate PC, I'm having no resource use from my gaming PC. So that is all there for, pumping out the game, basically, which is cool. I would call it a decadent setup, and it's not really. I just happen to have some parts laying around from an upgrade I did, and as a result, I built a second PC from it. That's really all it was. I paid like £50 for an old graphics card, put it in, and I was away, really. And I knew I wanted to upgrade so that for the next generation, I can record like the 4K gameplay. I have a PlayStation 4 Pro now. I wanted to record Ghost of Tsushima, for example, in 4K. It's really good. It's really good. The software, I will say, is different for the 4K versions than the HD6, the 1080p version graphics cards from Elgato, and I would say it's not quite as good, but they are improving it all the time. So, for example, currently there's no way to adjust the audio level of the gameplay that the gameplay sounds you're outputting, or the mic. So you have to adjust those before they go into the card, which is fine, but it's a little annoying because you can do it on the other software, and I'm not sure why they've done that, but they have. So yeah, this is the one I currently use, and yeah, I can attest very low latency, really good quality recording. The video you're watching now is recorded on this card, so attest to that how you will. The next step up which really I don't think has much of a use case apart from a few people, is the 4K 60 S Plus. Now, this is obviously a huge amount of money, and I'm only just going to quickly mention it because we talked about the other cards, but realistically, if you're setting up now, this is not really worth it. The difference, I guess, between this and the 4K 60 Pro is everything you can record with this without even needing a computer. So if you didn't even own a PC, you just owned a console, you could record gameplay with it, and it goes onto an SD card. Of course, how you would then edit or upload that software, you would need a computer. So it's a little weird. Where it has a use case is actually for people maybe who are competing in competitions. Those sort of like esports, things like that. You could come along, you can pop this in, record your gameplay, take it back home with you, edit it, upload it, that type of thing. Good for kind of portable use, I guess, but realistically, it has a kind of fairly limited use case. It does do all the recording and all the work on this box. Your 4K 60 Pro will use resources from your computer to do that. So if you really, really perhaps didn't want to use resources from your streaming PC or from your gaming PC, just wanted this box in the middle, it would be extreme overkill, is what I'm saying. Apart from some people who might have a real good use case for it, where they want to take it and record on the fly, some gameplay. Maybe some people I see go to events and things like that, and maybe it's useful for them. It's obviously incredible quality as well, and zero lag pass-through as well. So useful I think for a certain subsector of people, but not really what we're probably going through now, where we're talking about starting off. So I've talked about capture cards there. Elgato, for me, are the ones I've always used. You do have the option to go for AVerMedia. I don't think I've got any on here. I haven't used an AVerMedia card or their software, so I didn't put it on here because I can't vouch and say, I recommend this, if that makes sense, on there. The other bit of software, which we'll get to in a minute, is the Elgato Cam Link, but that kind of leads us into webcams. So you don't necessarily need a webcam if you're recording on YouTube. It's not really the main thing. It's useful. I don't record software with a webcam, like my videos with a webcam, because firstly, I record a lot of videos and I don't want to have to constantly worry about how I look in a camera constantly. Streaming, though, you do need a webcam. Like, you can't really get away with streaming without a webcam. Streaming's a much more interactive thing. People need to be able to see your expressions, your body language, how you're talking to people. It feels like a much more personal thing, a stream, rather than watching a video. And you need a webcam. Like, people might be like, oh, I've seen this top creator, he doesn't use a webcam, whatever. They're the exception, they're not the rule. The rule is, if you are starting out, you will need a webcam, and be aware that you will have to be on camera if that's not something for you. There are other, I'm talking about if you're doing kind of gameplay on Twitch or obviously IRL stuff, things like that. There are other things you can do where you don't have to be on camera, but this is kind of assuming you're starting out wanting to maybe do more of the gaming side of it or IRL stuff. Webcams right now are not good. So I say not good because they're well overpriced right now. How much is this going to cost us on Amazon? £194. I have purchased this webcam for less than £100. In fact, I just sold my webcam, which was this one, a couple of months ago, and I actually sold it for like £80. And I swear I brought it for about 90 or maybe 95, something like that. So it's a terrible time to buy a webcam right now. This is not how much it would normally be. This is, I'm guessing, because they have low stock and people want to buy them. So I really would not recommend buying this webcam at this price. You can get the Logitech StreamCam. That might be slightly cheaper, or they might just not have it at all. They do have it at £69. It's better than the C920. The reason why I have the C920 in there is because it is generally cheaper. It's generally about £90. I think Amazon is just price gouging at the minute. So I'd recommend not to buy at that price. You can find it for a lot lower than that. How much do they do? Saying this 135, 84. There you go. C920. See, I did used to own it. I purchased it. So £84.73. That's a much better price for it. But the reality is, you can see usually dispatched within 1 to 2 months. So yeah, not great. But the reality is with this microphone, this webcam, and even if you went for the stream cam, which is the very latest one, the actual quality of the picture is not great. What they have as an advantage is they're very easy to use. You plug and play. They're generally fairly cheap. And I say that even if they're £100, that's still quite cheap compared to the alternative, which we'll go through. But once you start getting up to like £150, say for this stream cam, unless you really just want something very simple, it's really not worth getting this. And I'll go through why. But if you want something very simple, the C920 is really the, it does 1080p, 60 frames per second. It does 1080p 30. The stream cam does 1080p 60, but it will do 720 60. And I would recommend turning it down to 720 60. That's how I've used it in the past. Try to have a 60 frames per second camera on there. It will look much better than if you are using your built-in laptop webcam or something like that, but you will need to get proper lighting to actually use it properly. So bear that in mind. It's not great, but it's easy to set up. The software Logitech included with it is actually not bad, honestly. And yeah, if you're just going to have a little corner with your face in it, whatever, you can get away with it. If you're going to do a lot more where you're going to be bringing it back up to larger screen cameras, etc., or a lot of stuff you're doing like chatting stuff, don't invest in a webcam like this. I wouldn't recommend it, because the quality, once you start getting to larger size, is not going to be really good. As I said, just starting out, you have options. The other option is the HD Live Cam from Microsoft. It usually goes for about £30, not up to £200. They're so hard to find nowadays, it's crazy. Not great quality. Will only do 720, like 30 frames per second. But if you really have to get a bargain basement card, I think in the UK you can get it from PC World for like £35. If you have to go bargain basement, then it's an option for you, I think. The other option you have is more interesting. So the Cam Link here. The Cam Link is, let's have a look, 120 quid. That is actually how much it pretty much costs. And I've just picked up one of these within the last couple of months. So what this allows you to do is connect up your DSLR camera, your action cam, your camcorder, whatever it is, plug it in via the HDMI output, and it basically uses the Cam Link to turn it into a webcam. Obviously those cameras have way better sensors, much better lenses than a webcam does, so the quality you get is way better. When you see streamers or people on YouTube who are, have really good cameras, you're wondering how they do that. This is how they use the Cam Link. Now, the caveat to this is only certain cameras will work with it. There is a compatibility list on Elgato's website. Make sure you check it, because you have to check it. But one thing I kind of can recommend, and which I am doing myself currently, is using a GoPro with it. All GoPros, Black Editions, are compatible with the Elgato Cam Link. To be compatible, you need to kind of have, I think, you need 3 things on the camera, basically. You need to be able to send out a live signal, video wise, with a clear HUD. So sometimes on cameras they'll send it out, but it will have like your little recording doodahs and stuff like that. Obviously you don't really want that on your webcam. You can kind of do it so you can cut that out, but it's a bit of faff. So ideally, if you had a camera laying around and that was the only issue, you can get around it rather than buying a whole new camera. But on the compatibility list, it will tell you whether it has like a clear HUD or not. The other thing, it needs to have obviously no auto shut off and a clear and like a continuous power supply. So the continuous power supply is pretty easy. A lot of DSLR cameras use batteries, but you can actually buy like second party like battery packs which just plug into a mains like that, so it just runs off the main power. You have to be a little bit careful sometimes with that, because the thing I noticed was when I tried to use my DSLR camera with a full like plugged in battery power, it would interfere with the microphone. So, and that was the microphone that I plugged in separately, not the onboard microphone. So you have to be careful sometimes, but generally for streaming, you're not going to be using the microphone on your webcam. You really shouldn't be, or camera, whatever it is you're using. But bear that in mind. Yeah, and it obviously has to not have auto shut off, because you don't want it to just shut down after every 10 minutes on there. GoPros, as I say, they have all this. The other thing is that it needs to have a HDMI out, but obviously to plug into the cam link. Some GoPros nowadays and some other cameras coming through actually will be able to bypass a cam link altogether and send signal wirelessly. I can't attest to quality or anything like that. I haven't really seen it, but I know that is coming. So we may find that in the future the cam link is not as necessary, but right now I would say it is necessary. I don't know what the latency is like on those cameras. I don't know what the quality of the feed's like or anything like that, but it's worth bearing in mind that camera makers now are wising up to the fact that streamers are beginning to use them, and they're making their products more user-friendly than they have been. The reason why I put a GoPro in here, I wouldn't recommend buying it on Amazon. It's probably way too much money. Yeah, this is the Hero 4. The latest one is the Hero 8. Now, you can actually pick this up secondhand for like, if you're keen, you can pick it up for like 70 quid. So for about £200, you can get a really good quality camera setup. And I know that is a lot of money. It is, but you have to bear in mind that like people are spending £300-500 on cameras alone, and then buying like a cam link. You got to bear in mind that if you spend £160 on a Logitech Extreme webcam, Logitech Stream Cam, you're only paying £40 more to get like a Hero 4 and the cam link. And the thing is, if you want to upgrade that Hero 4 at any time, you still have the cam link to use. You can use the Hero 4 outside to record, walking around the streets, etc. It has a lot more versatility for like £40 more, and it'll be much, much better quality. You can trust me on that. Yeah, so it's actually worth doing. I actually use the Hero 7 as my webcam. And I use it for my outdoor cams as well, and also any work where I'm talking into a camera. I've only just started recently to use it. So if you look at a video from like a couple of months ago and you're like, his camera's crap, what's he doing? That was the Logitech C920 that I used. So it's an option there for people to use. It takes a little bit of setting up. It's a little bit more faff, but it's not really that bad. And as I said, for a little bit more money, you have the future-proof like cam link, which is going to work, when you want to upgrade your camera, and you can pick up a second-hand camera like this, or maybe you have a DSLR laying around, or someone else does it, you can borrow or whatever, and it's a great option, much better than using an actual webcam on there. I think what we'll talk about next is some kind of peripherals in terms of keyboards and mice and stuff. Now, I see a lot of people, and they'll build a PC or whatever, and they'll spend, like £700 on their PC, and then like £200 on their peripherals, like their keyboard and mice. And I'm like, what are you doing? That £200 will increase your performance in that PC exponentially. Just buy a cheap keyboard and mouse. So yeah, I put this Logitech K120. It's a £10 keyboard. But please, if you're thinking of starting out and you are getting lured in by all the fancy keyboards, spend the money on the audio quality and stuff like that, then upgrade later on. Because honestly, it's not going to make you a better gamer using a mechanical keyboard. I know people will say it does. It doesn't, honestly. Like, or the gains are so marginal that unless you're at a completely pro level, you really won't find the gain. And yeah, you, as I said, if you're on a tight budget, don't spend money on keyboards. The place where I would recommend spending a little bit of money is on a mouse, especially if you play a lot of like first-person shooter games. A mouse is quite important. You can get these like Logitech stuff where it's like packaged with a mouse or something like that, and it's pretty good value. You can see there, this one's £5.58. Like, fine. If all you're doing is clicking on Microsoft Word all day, etc., then absolutely fine. But you're probably not if you're gaming, So again, though, prioritize audio over spending, £100 on a mouse. The mouse I use is the Xtrafy M4. I don't think I have it in here actually. I'll put it in here, but that's the one I use at the minute. It was £50, which is quite a lot of money. It's really nice, so I love it. But I've also used this one before, the SteelSeries Rival 3. It's 30 quid. It's a really good mouse. You still get a little bit of flashiness with the RGB. It's just a really, really solid mouse. And if money's tight, but you want, you play a lot of shooters, maybe you're playing Fortnite, Warzone, like you'll get really good use out of this rather than the keyboard. The keyboard won't improve you in Fortnite or whatever, like as much as people really want to claim it does. I have fancy mechanical keyboards. There's no difference, I'm afraid. Speaking of which, though, I do own the Key Move keyboard, which I recently picked up. The ASMR Nerd did a really, really good review of this. Okay, thanks. But I'm on Amazon America now for whatever reason. You can pick it up on Banggood as well, which is where it's a lot cheaper than this. I picked it up for £60, I think. It's a really, really nice looking keyboard. It feels great. I'm using the Gateron Blues, which are quite loud, but they feel great. And it's like a small, like 60% keyboard. So you do lose some of the functionality of a full-size keyboard, but it's really nice to use with. So I kind of put it on there because if you really have to go mechanical, it's a really nice option to have. It's pretty cheap and it's good. It's really good quality. I've been really, really happy with it since I picked it up. I also own like a HyperX alloy, which is fine. It's totally fine. I think it cost me like £80 or something, and I use it on my stream PC now. It's absolutely fine. Let's talk about monitors. So again, this is something where people automatically assume that they need to have a second monitor if you're streaming. You don't need to. It's easier, without doubt, but you don't have to. Monitors are quite expensive. Even this cheap one I put here is a kind of cheap option for a cheap gaming monitor, perhaps, or second screen is £115. You can get cheaper if you really need to go dirt cheap. You can, but there are other options out there which you can do. Examples of which might be some tablets, some Android tablets actually have like a pass through their USB-C port into them, so you can use them as a second monitor out of your PC. The compatibility of that is a little limited, but you might have one laying around which you didn't realize you could use, so it's worth checking. You can get like pretty cheap, like very small monitors. You could buy a second-hand monitor as well on there. You can, of course, stream on one monitor. It is possible. You will have things like your chat in there. It will be slightly harder to do everything like dynamically, but it's totally possible to do that. So don't feel like you have to buy a second monitor. And I mean, if you're streaming from an Xbox or a Xbox, Switch, PlayStation, and maybe you're using a capture card into a laptop, like you'll have it. That's your second monitor anyway, so you can control everything from there. But what I would say is that if you are, these are my recommendations for some monitors here. I generally recommend, if you are going to be streaming from one screen, make sure it's a pretty big screen. Not a 24-inch. It would be really difficult, I think, to do that. I've got some recommendations here for monitors, which I think are really good. And in my actual kit, I have what monitor I own as well, so you can kind of have a look. But I do have like 2 monitors. I have things very weird set up. So I made use completely of stuff I had, which was I had a PC monitor, but then I didn't have. But my second monitor, which is a 27-inch Idiama monitor, I've actually given to my girlfriend because she's working from home, so she wanted 2 monitors, which totally makes sense. So I actually have 2 TVs, 2 LG TVs, and I'm using the second one as a second monitor. So I have like a 50-inch monitor and a 32-inch monitor. It's weird, but it works, and that's how I'm going to have it set up in my new house. As I said, it's weird, but it works. Yeah, you've got to make use of what you've got at the end of the day. There's no point in going out and spending hundreds of pounds on a second monitor if you've got perfectly good stuff laying around on there. So kind of bear that in mind. Even like a cheap, like really cheap secondhand laptop will kind of work if you want to use a capture card with it and stuff like that. There's so much flexibility you can use. But we've got the BenQ, we've got the AOC here, which is a high refresh rate, 144 hertz. And you've got the really, really nice LG. LG make really great monitors. This one is always out of stock though, because it is so good. Really great refresh rate, really awesome display, and the response time is incredible. It's also G-Sync compatible. I think it's a FreeSync monitor, which is now compatible with G-Sync, so you don't pay that premium. So it's always out of stock. But if you can find it, then it's a really, really good monitor. 27 inches, I think, is a really nice sweet spot for a monitor. For my main gaming monitor, I wouldn't go lower than 27. I've actually got 32, which I think is even better. But I wouldn't also go higher than that because it gets a bit weird if you're sitting too close. But just that to kind of like bear in mind for you. I'm just looking if I had missed anything else. Nope. Okay. So they're monitors. As I said, you have different options you can use. It's well worth looking into. In terms of headphones, again, you don't have to spend the world on them, and generally people have a pair of headphones laying around they can use. I would recommend, if you're streaming, to be using wireless. It's just a bit easier than catching a wire all the time on camera and stuff like that. Although if you want something pretty cheap, you've got these Arctis ones. I like SteelSeries. I use the Arctis Pro, which is in my kit. They're really, really good. They'll work on, as you can see here, PS4, PS5 it says as well, PC, Xbox, Switch, and Switch Lite. So I presume they plug in via USB-C. Is that right? No, they've actually got 35mm jack. Sorry, there you go. So yeah, they plug in like that, and they're decent. They're £50 though. Most people will have them like laying around. Try not to be that guy or girl who's using those Apple headphones. They're so bad. But generally people have headphones laying around, so I didn't really put too much kind of thought into this. Really, I like SteelSeries ones. The other ones I like as well are the like HyperX ones. I don't know if they're going to have any down here on the recommended. Wow, headphone design's gone really crazy, hasn't it, recently? I wouldn't recommend these kind of £30 ones. I'd probably go for something a little bit better. They're the Pro wireless ones, which are really good. I'd love them, but they're £300. Not quite like, I mean, it would be awesome, but it's £300 for headphones, man. That's really difficult to justify, isn't it? Yeah, they don't, but there's some nice like HyperX ones that they do as well. And then the last couple of bits I think I've got, actually just looking through, double checking that. Yeah, last couple of bits are some things you to talk about and you might want to think about. I'll start with the lights here. So I picked up these lights and they're really good. They're only £30. What's really nice about these, you control them through your phone. Very easy to set up, very easy to control. They actually have individual LEDs. Usually when you buy like LED strips like this, they You can see I purchased it here. They actually are able to light up multiple colors at the same time on this strip. Usually other LED strips cannot do that. That's kind of important to note. So they'll just be one color. You can change the color, but they would just be one color. So you might think like £30 is quite a lot to spend on LED lights, but actually these are a competition for things like Philips Hue or the LifeX kind of brand. And those ones will set you back a lot of money. Corsair do them too. Corsair ones are like £100 and they're like a meter long. I think these ones are really, really good. So the reason why I've kind of included them in here is that if you're on webcam, lighting is very important. Not just lighting on your face to make sure that you get the best out of it, but actually background lighting and what's going on in your background. It can really make a difference just using some color. You can change the color about. I'm not saying you should be strobing it or anything like that, but just like having soft color, moving, doing stuff like that, just kind of makes the background interesting. And it I just think it really helps a lot. I haven't been able to set up my background very well because of the room I'm in, but when I move, I will do. And I've got lots of thoughts and of stuff I'm going to have that will make it look interesting, and these lights are going to be a fundamental part of it. As I said, £30 is not a lot of money to spend on this kind of light. It's not going to be powerful enough to light up a room so your camera lighting is really good, but it's pretty decent enough. I would say in terms of like camera lighting, if you're wondering about that type of thing, I'll go through that probably a little bit separately when I do like actually set up in my new house everything, because it's a little bit more complex to go through. There's lots and lots of options you can use depending on what sort of situation, and the options I'm using I think is a bit different to what a lot of people use, but we'll see how it kind of comes out because I haven't really tested it yet. So we'll see. But yeah, as I say, use the app on your phone and it's really easy to use. So I like them personally, which is why I include them in here. The other weird thing you might be thinking is like I've put a Pixel 3a in there. So I actually owned one of these before. I've now got a Pixel 4 XL. Now, when I include this, I actually don't necessarily mean this phone. I actually mean mobile phones in general, because actually mobile phones in general are incredibly useful tools when you're streaming. So one thing you may have noticed I haven't included in here is something like a Elgato Stream Deck, which you'll see a lot of people use. They're pretty expensive. Let's see how much they are. Stream Deck. So it's £140 or £80 for the Mini, which really isn't worth it in my opinion. £140. And what this does is allows you to control things through like one touch buttons. It's really useful, but it's an incredible amount of money for what you're buying. You can actually get the app on your phone. I think it's like £2.99 a month, and you can use your phone as it. So if you have an old mobile phone laying around, or even your actual phone that you want to use, you can actually turn that into a Stream Deck for a lot cheaper. So it's really good value. So I actually have my old Pixel 3 XL, which I use. I control all my lighting from it. I can use it as a Stream Deck as well to control stuff. I actually have as well I did a video on the Keyboard, which is a small little mechanical keyboard Stream Deck alternative. It's got like, it's got 12 buttons, I think, on it, or 12 keys. And you can macro assign them to whatever you want, which makes it really useful as well. But you can use like a mobile phone as well to do that. The other thing as well is why I put the Pixel 3a in there specifically is it has an awesome camera on it. I can testify to that. You can record in like 1080p 60, and you can actually use mobile phones as webcams. There's software out there for you to use. I think it's only Android right now. I don't know if if you can do it with Apple iPhones yet, but I know you can with iPhones. It's going to be better than probably a webcam, and probably cheaper as well if you already have the phone. But bear in mind that the thing people have found when they use it is your phone will run pretty hot. So you kind of have to bear that in mind. And if you're using it constantly, like for hours, say you're streaming or whatever with a webcam, like you might knacker your phone a little bit. if it's an old phone you're using, then there might be an option there. So as I said, so it has so much versatile use, like the mobile phone, that perhaps people don't know about. Control all your lighting through it, through your apps. You can use it as like a Twitch chat monitor. You can get like things like, if you use like Stream Deck, you can get all your kind of widgets on there. You can use like Streamlabs OBS on it as well. You can do all of that. Like so many things you could do like with it that you can use it for like a GoPro as well, to adjust the settings on your camera, and also to get a live feed just via Wi-Fi of how it's looking, which is really cool. So yeah, and as I said, I have a 4XL now, the Google Pixel 4XL, and it's even better, but obviously it's a lot more money. These are actually going fairly cheaply now. So if you are looking to upgrade a phone, but you really need something quite cheap, I can recommend the Pixel 3a is a really good one. They are actually going to bring out 4a fairly soon, which will probably be a lot better. So it might also be worth holding out on that if you're not after a flagship phone. And as somebody who has gone to a 4XL from a 3a, I can actually say that in reality, if I didn't get this phone for free with my contract, then if I didn't get this phone, this 4XL with a contract, I wouldn't have thought spending nearly double the amount of money on it would be worth it. But yeah, there you go. So that's why I've kind of added a phone in there. It's not necessarily buy this phone. It's thinking about how to use your phone for many different things when you stream or record. It can be really, really useful. So yeah, I hope this has been a useful video for people to kind of set up. The thing I will say is, like, it's, I think you can get the basics for like a couple of £100. So say you don't need a capture card, which is going to be the bulk of the money. If you do, you can get the £30 microphone, you can get the £30 HD cam. You can actually probably do it for £100, can't you? Really, if you just need the microphone, the webcam, keyboard and mouse, you already have a TV and monitor or whatever. You don't need a second one. You might already have a pair of headphones. It's not actually that much money to just get cracking on it. If you need a capture card, sure, it's going to add a little bit more money onto it, but it'll be kind of worth it to go through and do that. So I think nowadays streaming or recording is so much more accessible than it was 5 years ago, probably even that early. So you don't have to go out and spend a fortune. There are exceptionally expensive products out there like the Go XLR and stuff like that, but you don't have to spend that. You're not, people might think, well, I'm not going to be able to compete with those streamers if I don't have that sort of stuff. And that's not true, because the reality is that all YouTube videos and Twitch, they're not really about the quality. As long as you have half decent audio quality, half decent visuals, it's all about what you're doing, the personality, that type of thing. That is what will, get your viewership up. It won't be the quality of your stream as such. That comes with time. And sure, once you start wanting to compete, it's nice to be able to have that kind of kit. But as I said, you don't have to do it straight away. So yeah, I think I've just about kept this under an hour. Hope you guys all have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.